Good evening to all of you. I'm Luke.Lyddon with your look at sports. If you hear me say Army and UTEP in the same sentence one more time, I'm sure all of you are thinking, oh my goodness, not again. Well, we promise this is the final time. UTEP trying to move past the Army debacle last weekend, but it's hard to when the Black Knights had 7 rushing scores, not to mention 426 yards on the ground compared to UTEP's 103. UTEP clearly looking out of sync, and Coach Kugler saying it's time to get back to playing the UTEP formula. It won't be easy, though, as the Miners are set to face Southern Miss, who are currently second in Conference USA. But the Golden Eagles know they have their own hands full with running back Aaron Jones.
He hits the hole extremely hard, and he has good vision. So I don't think it's anything different than we've seen, but we just got to make sure we come out and definitely know where he is, and don't let him get started.
Outstanding defense, and they feed off their offense. They create a lot of havoc, a lot of turnovers. You'll see some fronts where there's nobody in the stance. They'll have all 11 guys up moving around. We call it radar, and we're going to have to be on our screws identification-wise.
And kickoff for that game is this Saturday at 6 o'clock. If you've had a day named after you, that's when you know you've made it. The name Jennifer Hahn probably sounds very familiar if you're from the borderland. Hahn became the first world boxing champion 1 year ago from today. And ever since then, September 19th is now known as Jennifer Hahn Day. Hahn defeated Helen Joseph at the Don Haskins Center last year by unanimous decision to become El Paso's first world boxing champion. Hahn's tradition of excellence hasn't slowed down as she continues to become a role model for the community. And here's what she had to say about her special day.
Today is Jennifer Hahn Day. I'd like to thank Mr. Andrew Haggerty and the El Paso County Commissioners for this proclamation, and to my fans and the City of El Paso for supporting me on Jennifer Hahn Day. Thank you.
I'm just thankful that everybody's still supporting me, and you're going to hear big news soon. So I hope everybody will continue to cheer me on and let me be your champion.
Hopefully we hear that big news sooner rather than later. It's Monday night, so you all know what that means. Time for our Play of the Week nominees. Our first one is pretty much brutal strength, while the other all about the speed. Nominee number 1, Parkland's Deion Hankins with the sidestep, and look at this stiff arm as he rushes into the end zone. Take another look at this, telling his opponent to just sit down. Keep in mind, Hankins is currently ranked first in rushing yards in the entire state. And now to nominee number 2, Las Cruces' Brandon Baeza fielding the kick, pacing himself, and then he's off for the 70-plus yard kickoff return for the touchdown. And now it's all up to you. Go to our KVIA Facebook page or website at kvia.com to vote for the Play of the Week for Week 4. And this one, it's going to be a tough one. Week 2 of the NFL coming to an end as the Eagles visit the Bears, and it was the Rook, Carson Wentz, that impressed again. A $190 and a score right here in the third. First and goal, Wentz swings it out to Trey Burton for the 2-yard touchdown pass for the 15-point lead. And listen to this, Wentz becomes just the 5th quarterback since the merger to start and win the team's first 2 games as the Eagles cruise 29-14. And there was clearly a long list of injuries Week 2 of the NFL, but this one hurts the most. Last night, Adrian Peterson suffered a torn meniscus in his right knee. He couldn't even put any weight on his leg after this play, and it's unsure when he will return. But some are saying as early as next week, but he seems more likely to miss a couple weeks of action before returning to the gridiron. And that's a look at sports. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. Good evening to all of you. I'm Luke.Lyddon with your look at sports. Just 27 more outs at the start of the day. That was it. The Chihuahuas 1 win away from being crowned PCL champions, but the Dogs had a tough challenge in Oklahoma City as they have never won in that ballpark all year long. And this one has gone into extra innings, tied at 3, currently in the top of the 11th. OKC with 13 hits compared to El Paso's 6, but they still have a fighting chance to bring home that Texas crown at the end of the night. We, of course, will keep you updated if anything changes in the next few minutes. On the gridiron, though, it was a very different story. A lot of offense. We love to see that. But to say the matchup between the UTEP Miners and Army was one-sided is just a little bit of an exaggeration. Time now to bring in ABC-7 sports director Trevor Thompson, who was at the game the entire night. And Trevor, did you at least have more fun than the Miners did?
Luke, back to you.
Trevor, thanks. 7 rushing scores, 598 yards of offense for Army. Clearly, as you mentioned, not a good day for the Miners. And we do have a quick Chihuahua score update. They currently are leading 4-3 in the top of the 11. So like we mentioned, we will continue to update you as that score changes throughout this sportscast. Now, for the MSU State Aggies, Their defense didn't have the best showing either against Kentucky. Most of us wouldn't expect a shootout with an SEC opponent, as the Aggies have only scored 54 points in the past 2 games. But this game, oh boy, this was a totally different story. NMSU visiting Kentucky, trying to make it above 500 since 2014. The Aggies took the early lead, but the Wildcats came right back. Stanley Boom Williams up the middle, and then outside to the sidelines. No one's going to get him. And look at this, right back inside for 63 of his 123 rushing yards in just the first half. So now it's the Aggies' turn on the reverse play. Watch how it opens up the field completely. Tyran Taylor to Jonathan Bood, wide open for the go-ahead score as they lead by 7. But just 31 seconds later, not even a minute, watch this play. Steven Johnson, 310 passing yards in this one, and 72 of them coming right here to tight end C.J. Conrad, who had 3 TDs on the night, down the sidelines for the long score. Both teams went into the half tied at 35, and it's the most points for the Aggies in a first half versus an FBS opponent since 2007. But Kentucky would jump ahead, leading 13 in the 4th as NMSU is punting away, and Kentucky's Charles Walker makes the catch at the 36, finding space. I think you know what's coming next. Off he goes, a 74-yard touchdown return. Kentucky, listen to the stat line, 692 yards of offense as they win in a crazy shootout, 62-42. So we had all the action on the gridiron, but what about inside the boxing ring? The WBO welterweight title fight on the line as Canelo Alvarez facing junior middleweight title holder Liam Smith at Jerry World. Currently, the fight is in the 4th round, and from what we've seen so far, Canelo has the upper hand, although Smith has created a cut on Canelo's left eye. It is actually now in the 5th round, and we will let you know if a knockout does happen soon. On to some more football. 11th ranked Texas visiting Cal, and we had a good one in the first half. In the second quarter, Shane Buechele, he does this every week, I swear. Tight coverage, it doesn't matter. 41-yard strike to Ja'Cory Warwick for the 10-point lead. Buechele just 1 yard shy of 100 in the first 2 quarters as they currently lead 31-28 right before halftime. How about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on Mark D'Antonio and the Spartans of Michigan State? The Irish led early, but not much after that. Tyler O'Connor, 243 yards through the air, and one of his 2 scores right to Donnie Corley with the leaping grab over the defender. The 2-point conversion was good, so they take the 1-point lead. Still in the second, O'Connor, the toss to R.J. Shelton around the edge for another 6. 15-7 Michigan State, and they also killed Notre Dame on the ground, rushing for 260 compared to Notre Dame's 57. The Spartans cruised past the Irish 36-28. And Texas A&M taking on Auburn, and the Aggies showing why they're in the top 25. A&M's Trevor Knight, 247 yards through the air and 1 score, and there it is. Connects with Josh Reynolds in the end zone for the touchdown. The Aggies win 29-16. 6th-ranked Stanford beginning Pac-12 conference play as they hosted USC under the lights at Stanford Stadium. First quarter, really no better way to start the game. 1st and 10 for the Cardinal. Ryan Burns back to pass, finding Christian McCaffrey wide open along the sidelines. And while this may technically count as a pass, the Heisman candidate, 165 yards on the ground with 2 scores as Stanford tops USC 27-10. An upset alert. North Dakota State fans drinking for an upset against 13th-ranked Iowa. Third quarter tie game of 14. C.J. Beathard, empty backfield. He had 3 TDs on the afternoon, and you're going to see one of them right here as he scrambles and finds Vanderberg in the tight window for the 9-yard score and the 7-point lead. So now in the 4th, Iowa still up 1 point. Easton Stick, though, for North Dakota State, keeps it up the middle, gains 29 yards, putting them in field goal position, so now a chance to win the game on the 37-yarder. And it just sneaks past the upright. North Dakota State somehow pulls off the upset by 2 points. The 5-time defending FCS national champion has now won 6 straight games versus FBS teams, and this is their first ever against a top 25 ranked team. And how about some high school ball? Las Cruces visiting Valley and Albuquerque. And what a game the Bulldogs had. Early on, Ryan Beltran on the read option. And look at the lane. No one is going to touch him as he trots into the end zone. But this upcoming play might even be better. Maybe even a Play of the Week nominee. Brandon Baeza fielding the kick, taking his time. And then he turns on the Jets. One more man to beat down the sidelines. And the cut inside. It gets the job done. 60-plus yards as he also is hardly touched for another 7 on the board as the Bulldogs cruise to 42-6 victory as they are now 3-1 on the year. And that is a look at sports. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. in the Lobos. Who would prevail? Well, in the first quarter, New Mexico quarterback Austin Apodaca on the read option keeps it himself to the sidelines and right past the pylon for the Lobos touchdown. But who would get the win? We will have that answer in just a moment. But first, we start with the UTEP Miners. We always say we want to watch UTEP play with the big boys, and they sure got their chance. UTEP visiting the 11th-ranked Texas Longhorns, but without their starting quarterback in Zach Greenlee. Greenlee suffered a slightly torn MCL, a slightly separated shoulder, and a broken finger last week, and he still finished the game. But he was a no-go last night, and instead, Kavika Johnson getting his first career start. And what a tough matchup he had. Coach Kugler and Charlie Strong chatting before the game, and hey, who's that? Kevin Durant cheering on his alma mater, and after a first UTEP 3-and-out, the Longhorns' first drive nearly perfect. Shane Buechele to Ja'Cory Warwick for the first touchdown of the game. But take a closer look. UTEP's Dante Levelette forces the fumble into the end zone, so it would actually be a touchback for the Miners. UTEP, though, another 3-and-out, which led to this. Just a 3-play drive as Buechele, the lob at the pylon, and Gerard Hurd comes down with his first touchdown as a Longhorn. Texas would go up 10 until Aaron Jones. It doesn't matter the team. He's going to run all over you no matter what. 51 yards up the gut to cut the gap to 3, but that was the only action the Miners would see in the end zone. But hey, at least Pater Pete is enjoying the action. Later on, Warwick back in the end zone, but this time it's going to count. Again in the corner and holds on and taps the right foot in time for the score and the 13-point lead. So in the second half, it only gets worse for the Miners. Buechele with an absolute dime over the secondary to Dorian Leonard III for 46 yards. Kavika Johnson only threw for 42 yards compared to Buechele's 244 and 4 TDs. UTEP only 10 first downs all night as they lose badly, 41-7.
We gave them short field opportunities. There was too many. In fact, I thought the defense played pretty well. The final score doesn't indicate that, but they were dealt short fields many times in tough situations, and I thought they battled extremely well, especially with, Alvin Jones came out in the second quarter with an injury and didn't play the remainder of the game.
We played as hard as we could. We went out there, gave it 110%, and you know what? We didn't really look at the scoreboard the whole game. We just tried to do what we could do, play assignment sound, and I think our guys fought hard.
As for the New Mexico State Aggies, they aren't playing a top 25 nightmare, but they did have their hands full last night against rival New Mexico. The Aggies haven't won the Rio Grande rivalry since 2011, but no better shot than snapping that 4-year drought right at home in Las Cruces. The Aggies with another rivalry matchup the second week in a row. So in the first quarter, look at these moves. UNM's Terrion Gibson cutting in, cutting out, not even touched as he trots into the end zone for the 7-0 lead. And then more Lobos, but this time it's quarterback Austin Apodaca. Does this play look a little familiar? On the read option, keeps it himself, a wide open lane, and there it is, over the pylon for the second score of the night. But after 3 NMSU field goals, the end zone never sounded better. Tyler Rogers to Jaleel Scott on the slant for the first Aggie touchdown of the game as they went into the half down just 2. So jump ahead to the third. It's the run game again. Lobos with more than 220 yards on the ground as Richard McQuarley right up the middle. No problem as they add another 7 for the 9-point lead. But later in the fourth, Aggies in the red zone and Rogers with the back shoulder throw. And Greg Hogan secures it for the 1-point lead. So the Aggies then on defense step up when they needed to the most. They stopped the Lobos on 4th and long right here to secure the win. And Tyler Rogers, turnover free as he threw for 2 touchdowns, 222 yards as the Aggies topped their rival in a tight one, 32-31, the final score. So NMSU finally gets revenge over the Lobos at home. And not only was it a big win over the rival, but a huge win for the program to avoid starting the year at 0-2. ABC-7 sports director Trevor Thompson was at the game from start to finish, and he has more. Trevor, take it away. Trevor, thanks as always. And moving gears now, the Chihuahuas, they are not in unfamiliar territory. A trip to the postseason for the second straight year, but facing a tough opponent in Tacoma. The Dogs were just 5-11 against the Rainiers in the regular season. The playoffs, though, a brand new chapter, and the Dogs showed that last night. The Dogs were able to pull off the 2-run deficit and make the comeback a success to eliminate the Rainiers from the playoffs. And with that, the Chihuahuas will advance to the second round, and we will know their opponent in the next couple of days. All right, so now it's time to get to the rest of college football. And I don't think there was any better play yesterday, last week, maybe even last season that'll top this play right here. Central Michigan, one final chance to upset Oklahoma State. No time left on the clock. Cooper Rush heaves a prayer to Jesse Kroll, who laterals it to Corey Wills, sprinting to the opposite side of the end zone. And he gets in for the score. What just happened? Rush with 361 yards through the air and 4 TDs on the day, and he'll never get a better one than that right there. Central Michigan shocks OSU 30-27, although the refs later said this play never should have happened, as Central Michigan was wrongly awarded an untimed down after an intentional grounding penalty from the Cowboys, which resulted in a turnover on downs. But moving right along, 15th ranked TCU with 14 straight home wins, the third longest active win streak in the FBS, all on the line against Arkansas. Late fourth quarter, tied at 28. TCU's Kenny Hill to Emmanuel Porter for the go-ahead score, but it was called back for a penalty for illegal touching, so they would opt for the field goal, but it's blocked by Dan Skipper, and this would actually head to double overtime. So in double OT, 3rd and goal, Arkansas's Austin Allen on the quarterback keeper hits a wall of TCU defenders, but he won't be denied. Pushed through for the winning touchdown. Austin, 3 TDs on the evening and 0 turnovers as they upset TCU 41-38 in double overtime. And this right here is a one-of-a-kind sight. Virginia Tech taking on 17th ranked Tennessee at Bristol Motor Speedway. And talk about nerves, playing in front of 156,000 fans, breaking the college football attendance record. The Vols trailed early in this one until Joshua Dobbs found Jawan Jennings right there for the 5-yard score. And then later in the second, Dobbs with another one to Josh Malone for the 38-yard score, and he's not even phased. It's like he knew that was coming all along. Dobbs only threw for 91 yards, but had 5 total TDs on the night as the Vols topped the Hokies 45-24. And the 50-year anniversary of the famous Howard's Rock as second-ranked Clemson welcomes Troy to Death Valley, and good luck. In the second quarter, Deshaun Watson had 2 INTs on the afternoon, but you can't forget about his 3 touchdowns, finding Hunter Renfrow, who makes the nice catch for the score, and take another look as he's able to get his right foot down right there for the 10-3 score. Troy would keep this close all game, but Watson showed up when it mattered. Early fourth off the fake. He finds defensive lineman Christian Watkins for the 1-yard score. Watson, 292 through the air as they hold off the upset 30-24. And we also got some high school action for you at the Field of Dreams, El Dorado and Mayfield. And this was a tale of 2 halves. First 2 quarters, all the Eagles. Matt Dennis hooks up with Dominic Sandoval on the touchdown pass, and El Dorado took the 21-0 lead at the half. But in the third, Mayfield's quarterback, Tony Loughlin, just explodes. 75 yards, getting around all the defenders to pay dirt. And this would cut the gap to 14, but Mayfield knows they still have a ways to go. So in the fourth, who else than Loughlin himself? Looking to pass, but instead, he's going to decide to run. Escapes from the pocket, crossing the field completely, following his blocks. And you guessed it, he's off. Loughlin ran for 243 yards, 4 touchdowns alone, as that tied it up right there at 28. So less than 3 minutes to go. Mayfield, Savion Russell scampering in for the go-ahead score. And how about that? Mayfield comes back and wins it 42-28. And sticking with New Mexico, the Centennial Hawks' perfect record is still intact at 3-0 as they top La Cueva in a close one yesterday, 23-20, the final score. And finally, the 16th ranked Texas A&M ladies in town taking on UTEP for the volleyball Borderland Invitational, but it was the Aggies from start to finish. In the first set, UTEP leading, but A&M, they picked up the pace. A short rally until Caitlin Blake blocks the UTEP spike for the point, and then later, this time, we actually have a pretty solid rally between both teams, but it's finished off with a vicious kill by Ashley Reeser right here. A&M dominates UTEP in 3 straight sets. And that is a look at sports. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. To all of you, I'm Luke.Lyddon with your look at sports. It all comes down to the lucky number 2. With just 6 games left in the year, the Chihuahuas can almost taste the postseason. But the Dogs still need to win 2 of their last 6 to make their second straight trip to the playoffs a reality. Or to put it even simpler, if the Chihuahuas can win tonight and division foe Albuquerque loses 1 game of its doubleheader, the Dogs are in. So could El Paso do its part with the pressure on the line? Albuquerque actually lost 1 of 2 earlier today, so all the Dogs have to do is win, and they clinch the division. And in the second inning, how about this? Austin Bousfield is a bad man. His first home run in AAA to give the Dogs the early 1-0 lead. So 1 inning later, the Dogs hungry for more. This time, Hunter Renfroe to right field, looking for his 29th homer of the year. And he gets it. It just stays fair as the Chihuahuas take the 2-zip lead, and they win it 5-0 and are now headed to the playoffs for a second straight year. To put this in perspective, the last AAA affiliate to win back-to-back division titles was the Hawaii Islanders from 75 to 77. Congrats, boys, and we'll be seeing you very soon in the postseason. 101 years. That's a long time, more than a century. It's rare to even see people live that long, but the Battle of I-10 has, and that rivalry isn't stopping anytime soon. UTEP has not only won the past 7 meetings, but are 56, 35-2 all-time against New Mexico State. So you know the Aggies clearly, desperately, severely want revenge over the Miners come this Saturday. The Aggies and Coach Martin getting in their final days of practice before the big game, but they'll be shorthanded as their star running back Larry Rose III is listed as doubtful due to a sports hernia. Not to mention quarterback Tyler Rogers may not play because of a misdemeanor battery charge against a household member. One thing is for certain though, it's not just the players amped up for this game, but the alumni as well.
Yeah, we want to shut them guys up. They've beaten us the last 8 years in a row, you know. They have our number, but that's what we're coming out there for Saturday to do, change that.
Mostly it was, doggone, we got to win this thing. Can't be losing to the Miners, for crying out loud.
It all goes downhill or it goes uphill from there. And a W is really, really important. And last year, the Miners got it, you know, they came back and beat us. This year, I think we're going to get over the hump and we're going to have a winning season.
As for quarterback Tyler Rogers, the DA declined to prosecute him, and the alleged victim told prosecutors the battery did not occur and she did not wish to prosecute. But it still is unknown, though, if the quarterback will play this Saturday. But that is not all for this rivalry. Don't forget to watch our special on the Battle of I-10 this coming Sunday. Trevor Thompson and I will bring you extended highlights of the UTEP New Mexico State game, plus the history of it all. That's this Sunday around 9 o'clock after the Texas Notre Dame game. We let all your voices be heard, and now the decision we've been waiting for has arrived. The first Borderland Blitz Sweet Play of the Week. It was a toss-up between Chapin's Ryan Wilson and Andrus' Keyshawn White. And now, ABC-7 Sports Director Trevor Thompson shows us the winner of Week 1. And each week, we'll be having the winner of the Sweet Play of the Week sign this very football, and at the end of the season, the winner of the Player of the Year will get to claim this ball as the prize. That's a look at sports. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.